Well, good afternoon and happy Saturday to you. And indeed, it is a happy Saturday. Believe it or not, I was experiencing some terrible internet problems, but nonetheless, I am here and I am thankful for this privilege and this opportunity that I have to greet you another Saturday in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Well, how in the world are you doing? I hope that you are doing well and that your family is all in good shape and in order. We're doing good on this side of town, and again, I'm just thankful. I'm blessed to be alive. I'm clothed in my right mind. I have a reasonable portion of my health and strength, and I'm doing the best I can with what I have to work with right about now. And so we're thankful to the Lord for His goodness and for His grace, trying to set things up there. I'm using my telephone to do my recording. But today I want to talk about legitimate later. Legitimate later. Later on, we are so accustomed to that term, later on. I'll catch it later, I'll do it later, I'll fix it later. Let me ask you, are you one who is good at procrastinating? Putting off for tomorrow what you really should do now? Are you last minute oriented? Some people work very well, as they say, under pressure, right up to the moment, and then you call on them and they're ready and they can run with it. Well, unfortunately, that isn't my testimony at all. I need time. I like to have time. I like to do things in a timely manner. You certainly wouldn't know that today by the time that I got on today, well after 3. But in this case, better late than never. And so, but last minute, are you a last minute person? Do you wait to the last minute and then you're in a huff? And you do know, usually when you wait to the last minute, all sorts of things happen, knock you off your square, take you far from where you really want to be, should be, and could be. And it just frustrates you, and perhaps it frustrates those who's waiting on you. Do you not make preparations, or do you make preparations? Do you not make preparations? I was saying it right. With the hopes that things will work out in your favor. Well, that really is insanity, right? Because if you fail to plan, then it's automatic. You really fail. You plan. If you plan to fail, if you fail to plan, then you fail to plan. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. Something like that. The point that I'm making is, when you don't do your due diligence, then you can expect just anything to happen. And so often we get upset. We get upset with people. We get upset with systems when things don't turn out in a way that we think that they should have turned out. And sometimes it was because of poor planning. Many people may not be aware of the value of timing, just how important timing is. Musicians and drummers, for example, they are notorious for timing. Timing is everything when they're playing a number a piece. At the time, it has to be right. If the timing is off, it can throw you for a loop, and you just kind of get out of the groove, if you will. There's a phrase that I use often, and I'm using it today, called legitimate later. Legitimate later. Now, you may be asking, well, what in the world is legitimate later? Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because in this context, When I speak of legitimate later, I'm talking about things that will get greater later. You know, there is a time for all things. There's a time to move forward. There's a time to stand still. But many people get it twisted. Times that they should be en route, they are standing still. They're marking time. And that can be problematic. Also, times when you should be standing still, you're anxious and you're trying to get something done. You're doing things. There is what's called legitimate later. And that's a time when you weigh the options, and again, it goes back to timing. Some things you must learn to wait on, right? You know, we who read the Bible, we read great passages that encourages us to wait. They that wait upon the Lord, right? They'll renew what? Their strength. They will mount up with wings as eagles. They will run and not get weary. They will walk and not faint. You know, David said in the Psalm, wait on the Lord, the 27th Psalm, and be of good courage, and he will strengthen your heart. Well, there is this passage that says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy come in the morning. We're talking about legitimate later. Later isn't always bad. You know, we hate to wait. We just so impatient. You know, no, it's got to be done now. I want it now. Give me, Lord, give me patience. Give it to me now. But some things, they take time. It takes time to churn a thing of ice cream. It doesn't just happen just because you crank, you know, your freezer several times. It takes time. It takes time to put a good cake together, to bake a great cake. You know, German chocolate, pound cake. I'm just saying. It takes time to put together a good peach cobbler. It takes time to put together a good pot or pan of macaroni and cheese, and especially when you're baking it. Some things takes time. It takes time to groom yourself. You know, there are those, oh, I can do it in no time at all. And of course, sometimes it tells that it was no time at all, right? So there is a time when we must be able to do some legitimate waiting and learning how to rest on the Lord and how to be encouraged and how to be encouraging, right? So there is a legitimate later, you know, learning that it gets greater later. You know, some things you go through, you say, boy, I wish I didn't have to go through this. Why me? Why am I going through this? Well, again, just remember, some things take time. And but you don't want to be one who is a procrastinator, who is just always behind in everything. You know, you're always, I'm going to, well, I had planned to, well, the train caught me, or, well, you know, I missed the last bus. Well, if you knew what time that bus was coming, didn't you have the responsibility? But you know I'm slow. Well, if you're slow and you know you're slow, then it behooves you, it should, to get up earlier. Leave earlier. If it takes you an hour to get dressed, you can't get up and start dressing 1/2 hour before you are to make your appearance. You know, so if we want things to get greater later, then may I suggest to us, we have to do something. We have to take some initiative, right? We have to be willing to do whatever it will take for us to make this thing turn out in the way that we really want it to turn out. You have to take the initiative. You have to take those steps and say, you know what? I need to do this. I can't put it off any longer. I need to do this. I need to move forward. You need to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone. Now, sometimes there are those who will urge you to just be quiet. They'll urge you to do nothing. Oh, it's not that serious. Oh, you're always doing something. You're just always so busy. You're always working on a project. Yeah, but they always appreciate what you bring to the table. And you need to know that if you lay back in the cut and do nothing, you are going to be the one who is frustrated. And so you have to remember, all rewards do not come because you are initializing things, but they do come. It gets greater later, right? We said that later on it gets greater. And so you have to be willing to go and do the distance. You have to be willing to, put it out there and say, you know what, it's coming in. You don't scream and say, I'm waiting on my ship to come in. Oh, my ship, I see it right there. No, why don't you take the responsibility? Get on a little rowboat and go out there and meet your ship. You're sure that it's your ship? Then go ahead. The ship can only come so close to the bank. And the ship is not going to get, stuck trying to make things so simple and easy for you. We must take some initiative. We must have some drive. There has to be something that propels us that says, you know what? You can do this, and you have to do it. If you're always waiting for the crowd, listen, crowd may never show up. How many times have you tried to accomplish something and you were waiting around for people, friends, and sometimes family? Listen, we had planned a very good vacation one year, and there were people who wanted to say, well, we want to go on vacation with you. And so we said, okay, here's the timeline, here's the dates that we will be traveling. All right, that sounds good. We're going to see how many people we can get. Next thing you know, we hear, well, you know what, that's not going to be a good time for a lot of the people because da-da-da-da-da. So can't we do it another time? This is the time that we have scheduled for our vacation, our getaway. Yeah, but it's such a good vacation and we all want to go. So there are times when sometimes it becomes necessary to dismiss the crowd in order to get what you're going after. Bartimaeus, blind man in the Bible, you'll find him probably in the book of Mark. He was blind. He could not see. He had eyes, but he could not see. But one day he heard that Jesus was passing by. And no doubt he asked, who is that? Saw the commotion about it. He said, Jesus is in town and he's passing by him. Do you know Bartimaeus started hollering? He said, hey, son of David, Jesus, have mercy on me, have mercy on me. And the crowds try to quiet him down. Man, no, it just ain't your time. It's not your hour. Just take a chill pill. He said, have you lost your mind? Do you know how long I've been blind? Do you know how long I have been without sight? They said, it's not that serious. He said, it's not that serious to you because you're able to see out of your eyes. But I have two sets of eyes and I can't see out of either of them. Jesus, son of David, have mercy. Oh, have mercy. He kept hollering. And do you know he got the attention of Jesus? And Jesus said, hold on. Who is that? Somebody's calling on me. And he says, I ain't nobody but that fellow over there, Bartimaeus. He said, bring him over here to me. And I'm here to tell you, Bartimaeus, what he had on that was holding him down, he took it, threw it to the side, and he came on over to where Jesus was. Jesus said, what is it that you want? You calling on me? He said, I just want to see. I have eyes. I have not been able to see out of these eyes since I don't know when. I've never. And I know Jesus touched him and said, listen, you can see now. I'm here to tell you, the crowd tried to stop him, but he refused to be stopped. He had something on the inside of him that says, no, this is for me. This is for my betterment. I must do this. And I'm suggesting to you today, shortly before I close, that legitimate later is not bad. We know, many people who say, well, I can't wait to get to heaven, because I'm going to get to heaven, I'm going to sing and I'm going to shout, and nobody going to put me out. Well, wait a minute, they're about to put you out of church because you're too quiet. You go there, you're sitting, you're not saying anything, you act like you don't know what's going on, you've unplugged yourself, you're looking at your watch, you're wondering what time is the service going to be over, you're afraid when they extend the invitation that somebody might join your church, and you're like, come on, Reverend, let's get out of here. We've been here over an hour now. Listen, well then you are not going to want to go to heaven, because that's all we're going to do in heaven. It's going to be singing and praising the Lord, shouting glory to his name and bowing before him. So if this is the dressing room, and it is, then you ought to be part of the rehearsal. You ought to make some noise. You ought to get involved. So what will you do with your legitimate later? You do have one. Look at what the psalmist says, weeping may endure for the night. Here's legitimate later, but joy comes later on. It comes in the morning. And somebody said it comes after morning, M-O-U-R-N, right? Well, there is a legitimate later, but then don't get that twisted with the things you ought to do right now. Now is the acceptable time, right? There are some things that we need and should do immediately. But then there come those areas, those times when we need to wait. And we learn the joy of waiting, that they that wait up on the Lord, they shall renew their strength. They shall mount with wings as eagles. They will run, not get weary. They'll walk and not faint. I'm here to tell you as I close that joy does come. Listen, blind Bartimaeus was blind no more, because he had something within him that says, no, I'm going to holler out, I'm going to cry, even though the crowds try to hush him down. They try to shut him down. They try to muffle him. He said, I'm not going to be muffled. No one is going to do this to me. I deserve to talk with the Lord for myself. And by the way, when was the last time you had to talk with the Lord? Don't you know, the song poet said, just a little talk with Jesus makes everything all right. So I want to encourage you on this Saturday, make sure you have a legitimate later. And it does get greater later. Sometimes there's tears in your eyes right now. But guess what? The day and the time is going to come when you're not going to have those tears in your eyes, right? You don't cry always. The old song in the church says, I'm so glad troubles don't last always. Troubles come. We catch it on every hand, but later on it will be. So don't wait to go to heaven to shout. Don't wait to go to heaven to feel good. The Lord came and gave his life on Calvary so that you might have life more abundantly. And so I want to urge you on this Saturday, live that victorious life. Take what comes your way. We take the bitter with the sweet. Now, something is wrong, I believe, if it's all bitter. Or on the opposite side, if your life is just all sweets, then you have some cavities coming your way. But listen, hang on in there. Hold on in there. Don't let people knock you off your square. Be sure of your calling. Do what you need to do. And guess what? You're going to make it if you can take it. All right, listen, this is Dr. Winfrey saying thank you so much for joining me. And again, my sincere apology for coming on late, but that was beyond my control. I'll have to do some investigation and see what really was happening, but I had to do it in my modem. But we're on, and we say we can't get it one way, we just do it another way. You know how we do it. If it don't work the way you want it to work, get it to work some kind of way. And that's a principle for life. This is Dr. Winfrey saying have a good rest of Saturday. Have a glorious Lord's Day on tomorrow. And listen, take somebody with you to the Lord's house. Somebody need to be there. Somebody need to hear a word. I see some preachers on here, and I want to thank you all for joining me today. And all the way in Ohio, preach, cry loud, and spare not. Right here in Illinois, preach and do what you do. You never know. Somebody will be rewarded. Someone will be blessed. Somebody will be healed because of your right perspective. It's Dr. Winfrey saying have a great rest of today and have a better tomorrow. All righty? I love you, and God loves you so much. He gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believe in him should not perish, but shall have everlasting life. Have a great day.